There are 3 things about me that are important to this video. Number 1, I have a friend named Christine. Number 2, we both like Disney Plus's Loki. And number 3, I like to make things. So when Student Council sent out an email mentioning a school dress-up day with Disney as the theme, obviously Christine and I were gonna go dressed as Loki. The thing was, Student Council only sent out the email mentioning the dress-up day 1 week before it, and I didn't even read my email until the next day when Christine messaged me to ask if I was gonna dress up. And we didn't even decide who we were gonna go as until that night, so that left me with 5 days to put together a costume. And me being me, I couldn't accept a Disney-bound kind of costume. It had to be as accurate as I could get it to be, which was quite tricky given I had 5 days and no budget. So today you're gonna get to watch me make this Sylvie costume with barely any money or time. It is currently 9:44 p.m. on 6 October. And I need this costume done by 12th October, or technically the night of 11th October, because I need to wear this on 12th October. So that leaves me with 5-ish days to make this costume. And not to forget, I also have other things to do during these 5 days, so I don't even have a full 5 days to work on this costume, which is kind of tricky because this costume isn't one that you can just pull pieces of clothing out of your closet to put together, because Sylvie has very unique pieces of accessories like her horns and the whole armor situation. So yeah, I have 5 days to figure out how to do all that. So I'm gonna start with her horns, and initially my plan was to use EVA foam, but EVA foam is so expensive, so I'm not going to use EVA foam and I'm going to paper mache it instead. I'm not particularly experienced at paper mache, so I'm just going to have to wing it, I guess. Now my plan is to use this leftover wire from a previous project to make a frame, like a skeleton, and then paper mache over that. So we'll see how that works. Now, I have worked with wire before, but I've always been kind of bad at it, so it was no surprise that this wireframe was really terrible. Also, the wire I used was quite thin, which made it easy to bend, which was great for my fingers, but bad for holding a shape well. I had to be extra careful not to move it too much so the shape wouldn't disfigure and it would still fit my head. I just finished with the wire base, and it's very messy. And all I'm gonna say about that is trust the process. I'm gonna go paper mache it now and hope for the best. I'm not sure if my technique was right when doing this, but it turned out fine, so it can't be that wrong. Also, one thing about flour and water as paper mache paste is that they separate after being left there for a while, so every time I came back to do more paper macheing, I had to stir the mixture to recombine them, which was a tiny bit inconvenient. Another thing about paper mache is that it takes really long because you have to let it dry in between layers. Each layer took a few hours to dry since I was doing this in my room and I was too lazy to put it out in the sun to dry. I really wish I could put it in the oven and bake it so that it will dry faster, but it's mainly metal, so maybe that's not a good idea. The rest of the process was basically the same. I just did layer after layer to form the shape and add details, mostly while singing musical songs. Because you learn on the outside, always looking in. Will I ever be more than I've always been? Then I found you changed my heart and set loose all this truthful shit inside, and so I built the bomb. Tonight our school is Vietnam. Show you I'm not moving. Wherever you go, I won't be far to follow. Oh, that's the thing with life, no one makes it out alive. In between layers, while waiting for them to dry, I started work on the breastplate. So my plan is to cling wrap myself and then tape it. We've done it in school before, so I kind of know how to do it. But the issue is, I've only ever done it on other people, namely Christine, and I've never done it on myself, by myself. Like, even when I was doing it on Christine, there was someone else helping. So I don't know how easy this is gonna be as a one-man job. After I create the base with that, I'm gonna cut out a pattern and then use cardboard that I carried all the way home to like form the actual thing. The thing doesn't even want to come out of the box. I feel like I have to lie down on the floor to get it to stick to me. Okay, I'm gonna try that. Do I start from the top or the bottom? Ugh. Okay. I might have to buy my family new cling wrap after this. Are you supposed to cut it? However, I was a bit stupid. I literally just cut the thingy off of my body and I realized I forgot to draw the pattern lines on it. So I taped it back onto myself and drew the pattern lines on them and then cut it back off. I cut along the pattern lines, then traced the pieces onto cardboard and cut them out. This was how I transported the cardboard home, by the way. It definitely took quite a bit of trial and error to get a shape I liked, but after a lot of cutting and bad posture, I got there eventually. As a side note, I had to cut some parts out with my fabric scissors because my penknife isn't the sharpest, so RIP to my fabric scissors, I'm so sorry. With my pieces all cut out, now I had to stick them together to form the base. I tried to use super glue at first, but it failed miserably because of the gaps that cardboard has, which was quite annoying. Anyway, I gave up on the super glue and ended up stapling a few of the pieces together, then duct taped them to give them extra support. Then I ran out of duct tape, so I used masking tape. You know, since this is just for like a small school thing and it's not for anything serious like a Comic-Con or anything, I can afford to have some inaccuracies in this costume. Because normally I would be a huge stickler for accurate details in costumes, but you know what? It's just for fun. It's not even a competition. It's just a small school thing. And I obviously don't have the time or resources to do this properly, so an accurate costume it is. Anyway, what I was thinking was, since I already own this harness, why not I just make a breastplate and then I cut 2 holes at the top. Then I strap these straps from the harness through. It kind of looks like what Sylvie's breastplate looks like. But the back is obviously not accurate because Sylvie's costume has like space for her to put weapons and stuff. And I don't have that, so this will have to do. I don't have any weapons to store anyway. That's what it ended up looking like. Unfortunately, there was an issue of the bottom of the breastplate popping up, but I left that for future me to deal with. Now I needed to go shopping for some supplies I didn't have. I needed to go get faux leather for the breastplate, gold paint for some detailing, and gloves. On 9th October, Monday, I left the house to go find those things. First stop was Spotlight. Their faux leather was very expensive. Or maybe standard pricing for faux leather, but very expensive for me. I also tried looking for gloves, but I couldn't find what I was looking for, so I just ended up buying gold paint for $3 and then leaving. After leaving Spotlight, I started to leave the building, and then I made it 2 stories down before I remembered that I wanted to go to Daiso to look for gloves, and Daiso was next door to Spotlight, so I had to make the walk of shame back up to Daiso. I did find gloves there, but they were $9.50. Are you kidding me? $9.50 from Daiso? Anyway, my last stop was Chinatown. It was my first time going to Chinatown to look for fabrics, so I ended up in the wrong building at first, but then after staring at Google Maps for far longer than it should have taken me, I made it to the right building, and oh my god, was there a lot of fabric. It was like I was in fabric heaven. Any fashion students or designers in Singapore will probably think I sound insane, but there was so much fabric, it blew my tiny little mind. every corner I turned was just more fabric. And as I expected, a lot of the fabrics were a lot cheaper than Spotlight. Like, these were selling for $6, but it would probably be double the price at Spotlight. Some guy wanted to sell me faux leather for $22, which was about the same as Spotlight, and I'm not that rich, so I just continued looking. After a little bit, I found this fabric for $6. It was slightly different than the other kinds of faux leather fabric, but since this was a low budget, low stakes project, it was good enough, and so I got it. After that successful fabric purchase, I bought some chicken feet and I sat outside People's Park complex while it rained and I ate. It was a very good time for me to reflect on the beauty of life, but it was also very hot and humid. I'm gonna do a haul from today. So first of all, I got gold paint because I need to paint the horns and some details on the breastplate. Second of all, I got these $10 gloves from Daiso. Why were they $10? First of all, this is not worth $10. And second of all, these gloves used to be $2, but now they're $10, which is $8 more than $2. So that's frustrating. Third of all, I got these two fabrics from Chinatown. This is faux leather. It's actually really interesting because out of all the faux leather I've seen, I think this is the first one that's this texture. It's closer to regular fabric. It's very, very thin. Like, I don't know how to say it. Normally, faux leather, or like most of the faux leather I've seen, is thicker and slightly stiffer. But this is very much like a normal fabric. It's just, I guess, denser. So it resembles leather more. And this, I actually don't need this much green cloth because I only need a small piece for like maybe this size, a piece on her breastplate that's that size, but they were selling like this much as one piece for $3, so I just got it. And you know what, maybe I'll just need it in the future, I don't know, but now I have a lot of green cloth, so yeah, that's all. Going briefly back to the horns, eventually I decided it was enough newspaper layers, and since I now had the gold paint, I started painting the horns. The gold paint had terrible coverage, so it took quite a few layers to get a solid color. I'm in the midst of painting these two golden things, and I'm starting to really dislike the texture of these horns because it's paper mache and I don't have experience in paper mache. It's very lumpy, or like not lumpy, it's just really irregular. It looks really bad, but there's nothing for me to do about it now, so I guess I'll just have to deal with it. Back to the breastplate. I didn't film this part, but I also cut out cardboard to make up the pattern on the breastplate. Here, I'm wrapping those pieces in fabric. And this is where I did a smart thing. I needed to secure the fabric down, but I knew the fabric was porous and might not set well with the super glue, so I did test patches. And I was right. So I secured the cardboard on the fabric piece with double-sided tape, and then superglued the flaps down onto the back of the cardboard where it wasn't visible. Obviously, I got superglue all over my fingers because the fabric was porous. I initially tried to combat that by doing a layer of double-sided tape and then superglue over it so it wouldn't seep through the fabric, and that worked until I ran out of double-sided tape. With all my pieces done, I started sticking them down onto the base. It went pretty well until I got to like the 5th piece. These pieces all fit together on a flat surface just now when I tried, but now when I try to stick them on, they don't fit. Can you see? It doesn't fit. Like, so I'm gonna have to trim the pieces. Other than that, I would say it's looking alright right now, more or less. The pieces, the edges are not nice, but meh. How is it so deformed? I don't get it. I made sure it was correct before covering it in fabric, and now it just doesn't fit. After a lot of trimming and redoing a few panels, thankfully I finally got the pieces to fit onto the base. I have good news and bad news. The good news is I finished sticking all of the panels onto this, and the bad news is this thing doesn't bend very well anymore. When it was just the base piece, it bent fine, obviously, but now with all the pieces on, it feels like I shouldn't be bending it, especially because most of these panels are stuck on with masking tape because I ran out of super glue. Also, I have to add a bunch of logo rectangles here, and I don't think masking tape is gonna be strong enough to hold that down. Like for the rest of the pieces, at least I can use a few pieces of masking tape with significant surface area so it doesn't come out as easily. But for those tiny little rectangles, I'm not so sure. I fashioned the rig to keep the breastplate bent and reinforce the parts of the panels that weren't sticking well, weighed it down, and then left it overnight. Most of the costume was done at this point, so I got to work on the gloves. I cut the fingers off of the gloves, and now I need to figure out what to do with the rest of the glove. As you can tell, these gloves are arm covers that go all the way up to past my elbow. And that's part of the reason I got them, because Sylvie's vambrace goes up to here as well. When I was in Daiso, I was thinking, should I keep it as one long piece or should I cut it and then like have it as two separate pieces? Because obviously Sylvie's vambrace is separate from her gloves. I don't want to keep it as one piece because you can't really see on camera, can you? I don't know. It looks really strange as one piece. But if I cut off the piece, then this long arm bit is just gonna be loose. So I am not very sure what to do about this. Another thing about Sylvie's vambraces is that they're made of leather, like her breastplate. So one idea I had was I cut this off at the wrist so that's two separate pieces, and then I slice open the arm part and then sew a layer of the faux leather on the outside so that it'll be, I guess, tougher because it's two layers of fabric and it'll be the same material. I don't know whether that'll work, but I guess first of all, I'm definitely not keeping this as one piece. I'm going to try and take these in at the wrist. I have more or less successfully taken in the sides of the gloves. Looks really bad still, but better than just now. Sorry the camera quality is kind of really bad because the lights are dim, but I just wanted to share an idea that I've conceived on what to do for the vambraces. I know previously I said I wanted to like double layer fabric and then just use that as the vambrace, but I don't really like the texture of that because especially the fabric that they use for the glove is very thin, so it's very flimsy. And I was thinking, what if I use my taekwondo guards and I just cover it with fabric and use it as the vambraces? I'm not entirely sure how I might go about that, but it was just a thought. And also, like I mentioned previously, her vambraces go all the way up here and my guards only go up to here. But I think that might suffice because I'm gonna be wearing long sleeves anyway, and we already have so many inaccuracies in the costume. I think it doesn't matter, so I'm gonna try. I just taped the fabric onto one of the guards and it looks bad. I mean, expected, but yeah, it looks bad. You can tell that it's very uneven. I don't know if you can see from the lighting, but yeah. And also, right now I'm trying to wear it with the rounded part of the guard on the top of my hand because that's what her vambraces look like. But then that means I just can't bend my arm because of the way the guard is. And I could wear it like it's meant to be worn and then I can bend my arm. But then the guard will be on the outside of my arm and then it'll look strange also. Also, remember how I said I didn't really like the double fabric idea because it's too thin and flimsy? I think this might be too thick. And I need to find a middle ground. I still don't know what to do about the fan braces, so I think I'm just gonna give up. In the morning, I got back to the breastplate. I think it's looking quite a bit better now. The last thing I had to do for the breastplate was paint the details on. Like I mentioned previously, I wanted to stick something on for the gold rectangles, but given I'd run out of super glue, I decided it would be better to just paint them on. So this is what the costume looks like right now. A few obvious problems, I would say. First being that this thing doesn't stay down. So I'll definitely have to secure it down because the straps are really holding the top part tight down, so the bottom just ends up flopping out. I still don't know how I'm gonna keep it down because tape is definitely not strong enough. And another problem is this is supposed to be a turtleneck. She has a thing here. But if I wear a turtleneck in this country, I will die. So I guess this will have to do. Everything else is more or less fine. I might have to do something about the wrist because I kind of cut the gloves really short because there was a seam about here when it was long. But when it was long, it was around here. So I was like, yeah, okay, it should be fine. Then I cut it and it went up here. So the gloves technically do go down to where I said they were cut at because they were cut there. But because there's no elastic to hold it down, it kind of goes up so you can see my wrist. I've been trying to figure out how to get the breastplate to not pop up for at least 2 hours and I still can't figure out how to do it. So I've tried, like physically tried. It seems like the only thing that remotely works is sticking 2 pieces of tape to the bottom, which is obviously not very sightly, but it doesn't work if I don't let it cross to the front. So I guess it kind of works if I trim the tape so that it follows the pattern of the panels. I don't have much options right now, so yeah, I guess this will have to do. It's very crinkly, you can hear. I guess I just have to hope no one punches me or something. I couldn't sleep that night for some reason, so I ended up only getting 4-ish hours of sleep, which wasn't fun. I don't think you can hear. I'm breaking eye contact. I also think you should vote Loki for president. I think so. Vote for Loki. Also, here's a reminder to watch Loki. I don't know what. The day was going great. My costume was staying intact. But then something unfortunate happened.
We're very sad right
We are very sad.
We're so
We
sad.
saw our brother.
We saw someone dressed as Thor, and now we can't find him. We saw him just now, and then tried to go and get our things so we could get a picture, and then by the time we went back, he was gone.
Who's to say whose fault it is?
We went back because she had to take her horn.
Thor, if you see this, call us.
After a long day of mischief, I left school and got on the bus home in costume and sweating. Hi everyone, I just got home and it is so hot. So yeah, I am sweating. I can feel the sweat on my back. I can feel the sweat on my skin. This was quite a pointless video. I think I'm only going to wear this costume maybe twice because there's going to be a Halloween party I'm probably attending. And yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this costume afterwards. Probably just chuck it in my closet or something. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Like it if you want, subscribe if you want. I don't know, I can't guarantee any future content because I'm not a content creator. I just make stuff and then I make videos about it. I guess that's content creator. What am I saying? Look at my sweat. This isn't sweat, that's super glue, but goddamn. Okay, I can't even wash this. What am I gonna do? All in all, I had a lot of fun making that costume. I think it turned out great for 5 days of work and being primarily made out of cardboard. I just want everyone to know that I've been wearing broccoli socks all day. Yes. Bye.